You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends.
Jay, coming from the high country, flying high in the high country to the low country of South Carolina.
Shannon G and Mesa AZ.
For those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. We were just making fun of Jay before we went live here. He actually wrote his little moniker down, and then he still screwed it up, so he's still got to practice. But Jay's joining us here from the studio as well. We are happy that you joined us. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you would on our YouTube channel. We're trying to be a little more diligent about getting those, out pretty quick. And then, if we have a Facebook page, the Park Flyer Podcast Listeners Group, and you can go there and subscribe there as well. Still getting subscribers every day. We're doing well, and everything looks good from podcast start. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach out at parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com. That'll come to all of the hosts, and then we can respond from you there. We are excited because we have kind of a split show. We're in the studio now, but we actually went to Gunsmoke. I actually went to Gunsmoke with Shannon, who was competing, and went out there to support him. And we actually got to, kind of do some field work, so to speak. We went out there at the field. So we'll get to that here in a minute.
Eyewitness news.
Yeah. Exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
It was interesting, to say the least. It was my first actually attendance for Gunsmoke, but Shannon kind of walked me through stuff, and I didn't go there to fly or anything. I just went there to kind of support Shannon. But just real quick, we had what'd you say, 20 something?
We had 25,
I think,
pilots and in team scale. So there's team scale where there's a pilot and a builder there. So there's actually one team scale, so that counts. So there's like 25, and we had a few repeat people, and we had some new people. So it was really good to do that. So we lost we had a contingent that had been here from Texas last year, and they couldn't all make it, but we had some people from Colorado that were their first time coming down. So it was really great to have them be part of it and spend some time talking to them. Guys, they're trying to do a similar thing up in their field, and they had a lot of questions about the field and stuff. So I got to talk to them about that stuff. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
And now remind me how many times a year they do this, because it's not just one.
So this is under the National Scale. National Association of Scale Aeromodeling, NASA, which is a subset of AMA. These are held across the country as kind of like getting people ready for the nationals that are held up in Muncie over the summer. So there's not really a qualification with the Scale Masters. Scale Masters is separate, and we've talked about that in the past. They had it where you would qualify to go into Scale Masters. There isn't a qualification for NATS, but this is a good to get you ready for it if you do want to go to compete in NATS. But it also is accepted by Scale Masters. So whatever you get, if you place, in the top 3, you're basically qualified for competing at the Scale Masters, which is held in October in California. So there's Scale Masters events that are held primarily in the West, and then the NASA ones were primarily in the East, but now there's more here, East and West. So so there's still a couple other, prep or qualification events across this great nation.
Interesting. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to jump out of the studio and head out to the field and see how things are going, and we will be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me is
Shannon G here in Mesa AZ.
Yeah, and we are live. Well, not really live. It's you're hearing this after, but we're here at Gunsmoke. Actually, it's considered the Gunsmoke Scale Classic. It's part of the NASA, which is the
National Association of Scale Aero Modelers.
There you go. So it's one of those. And anyway, we have a beautiful day today. Although it's windy, you can probably hear that it's fairly windy for us. And you guys had a kind of a delay this morning.
Yeah. So yesterday we started, which was day one, and because of a TFR in place for VIP air traffic, we had to cut out early, so we could only do one round of qualifying. And we had planned on starting early, so we actually bumped everything up to get here at 8 and get started, and the wind was howling. So we waited it out for a couple hours and finally said, okay, gotta
do it, huh?
Gotta do it. So just completed round one for both classes I'm in. I'm in the Pro-Am Sport and the EDF. So I got 2 rounds down. Yesterday I was leading in both those, so we'll see what happens. The wind's definitely a factor today. But
it is definitely a factor. I thought we were going to lose a couple of guys out there. They got a little low, and you actually got a sinker too. I think.
I
in
did.
The F4.
I got a sinker, and then just when I flew the Super Tucano, I was doing my descending 360, and I probably should have started a little higher because I got real low and had to pull it out. So that was a bummer, but. I'm having a good time.
Well, good. That's what it says. And we have, it's sponsored by your club, right? Mm-hmm. Your club puts it on. And then we have how many pilots here?
I have 24, if I remember correctly.
24 pilots.
Same we had last year.
And then they do 2 separate, right? They do a scale like static.
Right. For a couple of the classes, there's static scoring where they actually look at the aircraft and you show them documentation and they look at the different views and everything. You answer any questions they have. And then for the flying part, there's a couple of the classes where it's basically just you got a picture of the plane, you know, and that's just what I'm doing with the 2 classes.
Right.
Right.
And then after you do those, and you go, they have a flying portion as well.
Yes, so everybody's flying. And actually, there were some people that just did the static
yeah.
So, which is cool because you can actually, you know, maybe if you just want to make sure, hey, is this aircraft worth my time to get ready to fly? You know, what should I do? They'll come out, get that static score,
Gotcha.
and then they go back and rehash it. And then, you know, the flying you can practice all the time, but that static you really can't. You know, you really want to know from the professionals what's expected.
Right. Well, it's kind of a really kind of a cool thing. I was shocked because this is my first Gunsmoke, but I was kind of shocked at how they did the 3 flight lines.
Okay.
That was interesting to me. And at first I was kind of like, ooh, you know, you had guys doing figure 8s and the guys coming lower, and I'm like, who's calling, you know, to keep all these guys kind of organized? But it does seem to work out.
It works out. I mean, there's a couple times where you'll. Like I did a couple orbits just to make himself some clearance, and there's a couple times where I had to kind of zigzag to get my way through, just make sure I didn't hit anybody. But you know, it is what it is. And we used to have it where we have a walkie-talkie and call off the maneuvers, but it was actually kind of more of a hindrance than anything. So it's like, okay, let's just keep an eye out, and you know, we have a spotter. So our spotter was also our caller, where they call out what our maneuvers are, so we know to do them. And sometimes we coach each other, you know, make sure we're doing the right thing.
So everybody has a routine. They start out with a takeoff, and then they do a flyby down the runway, and then
have to do a figure 8.
So you have to do. Doesn't matter which direction, in or out.
Typically, you're doing it upwind.
Okay, so upwind and then out.
Upward and out, yes. Okay. So kind of away from the crowd.
Right.
Is the way we like to call that. So, and then after that, you have the other required is what they call so we did the flight past. Flight realism kind of takes place the entire flight. So that's a maneuver, like how well do you maintain the aircraft flying as it should. You know,
okay.
Yeah. The course flight. And then of course landing. So if you don't take off, you don't land, it's kind of pointless.
It's true. But you want to land on the runway, not out in the desert,
correct.
You know, with the wheels upside down.
Yeah, and if you have a gas plane, the engine running, and even with electric, so like we still keep the prop turning no matter what.
Right.
So we can get more.
Because it's more based on realism,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't turn it off and then.
Right. And you know, sometimes you forget and you're going to get dinged for it. But I try to do my best, and you know, what I do is actually set my trim up a little higher so it doesn't turn off.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, it just stays just
steady,
right there. Yeah, but it doesn't really produce enough for us to do anything with you. So yeah, they had that 3-flight, and then there's the type of airplanes. Because I noticed there's no turbines today, but I was talking to some of the guys. I'm like, you have a turbine class, and they're like, oh, there's nothing that keeps you from flying one.
Yeah, it's basically there's the open and the expert classes are kind of like for the guys that build the airplanes from scratch, and they can be any power system. It can be electric, glow, turbine, whatever, gas, whatever it wants to be. The ARF class, which is what they call a club class, kind of like an introductory class.
Right.
That's kind of geared towards your off-the-shelf ARF airplane, like a T-28 or whatever.
So yeah, because there's a bunch of those out here.
Yeah.
A bunch of T-28s.
And kind of another class with that, which what I'm flying is Pro-Am. There's Pro-Am Sport, which is what I'm flying in. There's Pro-Am Pro. So basically, once you kind of graduate from Pro-Am Sport, you move to Pro-Am Pro, and that's where you can fly. Pretty much any aircraft, but you're supposed to have either bought the ARF and put it together, or built the airplane, and then you don't get the static score. You get the 5 points basic for that.
Oh, gotcha.
But with the ARF, what they do is they actually do static score, but they don't do outline. So like when you buy an airplane from a hobby store,
right.
It might be a T-28, but is it exactly the scale of a T-28?
Oh, right.
No,
yeah.
and you can't do anything about it without
Right.
majorly cutting the airframe, modifying it.
Right.
So they only grade on markings. So if you go
Gotcha.
to detail the aircraft, but bullet holes in it, and just make sure the numbers are in the right spot, all that stuff. That's what they look for. So.
Right. Very, very cool. Well, we had a guy just landed, and he kind of flipped it over. But you were talking about the wind today was a factor because of the biplanes.
Yeah, so with biplanes, they any of the tail draggers really. It's just that with as windy as this is, getting them out to the center, they're going to weather vane and have a hard time getting out there. So we were allowing them to go out, be actually placed out on the runway.
Okay.
So they kind of said, okay, we're not going to be judged on the taxi and in and out because of the weather. Even with my planes, it'll want to meander around the runway. So, but if you're flying those tail draggers and the biplanes, it's just this wind's a little tricky, especially to get your takeoff and your landing, and just to get it out there without again flipping it over. So they were a little leery of that at first, and we just got to the point where we got to do it, and the wind's died down quite a bit.
Yeah, it has died down slightly. And then I heard him say that they're not judging for taxi yet.
Right. Yeah. So taxi in and taxi out, we took off the judging for that because it's the weather. It's just the wind. It just pushes the planes around, and you really can't do much about it. I mean, roller plane, obviously, tail dragger, it's a little bit of a factor, but you got a jet or turbine powered aircraft, and on trikes, it's not a factor in real life. But even with our models, it is. They'll bounce around and want to flip over.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of Cubs out here that they look really good. There's yellow, just a J3 Cub. It looks real good.
Yep.
There's a blue one that's a marine in the marine
ample
scheme. That one looked really good. They're both gas.
Yes.
And then there's really a lot of T-28s.
So the T-28 is very popular between the Pro-Am and the ARF class. So there's a couple. Okay. There's a couple in those, and there's actually another Tucano just like mine. I don't think he's flying it today though.
Okay. He just flew yesterday.
Yeah, he flew yesterday.
A couple of P-51s that are out here, and then we've got a couple of Ryan PT.
Oh yeah, the PT-19s. That's another really popular aircraft.
Yeah.
Or the PT-23, PT-19. Right. And there's we got a SPOD. 13. That's
flying that. An old World War I airplane kind of thing.
Flybaby down there, I think.
There was a Flybaby down there, yeah, because I saw him walk it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of really good airplanes. I'm really shocked. They do look very impressive, as far as the static part, the time and it. The paint jobs look real good. They look very realistic.
Right behind us, Mike Sterner. This is a box stock P-47. I forget which kit, but he went in and weathered it.
Yeah, it looks weathered.
Did a great job. And when you present these to the judges you usually have a booklet full of all this
photos
information
and stuff,
and you want to explain to them why you do certain things. So there's actually he has damage on the plane, and he thinks he got marked off because he didn't tell them that there was actually, because it was supposed to be damage on it.
It was supposed to be damage.
Yeah.
He didn't tell them
He didn't say that clearly and put it on there. There's guys they'll put they'll literally get a paint chip either from a real airplane with the same or they'll get at least and copy it and put it on something, but put it in there that it does that. So there's a lot for the markings and when they're looking at that outline.
Mhm.
I mean, the guys that judge the static, they really know what they're doing. They spend a lot of time researching aircraft, and most of them are involved in aviation, beyond just model airplanes, but they spend a lot of time learning what's, the dimensions of aircraft, and
Right.
it doesn't look quite right. This is a little,
Right.
that's too short, that's too long, and it can get really nitpicky. But some guys, they figure it out and they nail it, and they get 100%.
Yeah, it was amazing. I saw a couple of spectators walking around. They had these Jane's books of aircraft, and they were walking down the flight line. They'll open it up and they'll look. So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they've got photos and information on the different types, and it's amazing to hear the conversations of people that are so into exactly what their airplane is designated.
Yeah.
So I was pretty shocked that one of the conversations I was in earlier this morning was just where the guys were talking about everything about the airplane, the serial numbers, previous owners, where it was actually flying in the war, and the years that it was active, and what happened to it now, and so the information is very in depth. For all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind
spend a
of
lot of time. Matt Ventura, one of our club members, he's not participating this year because he's moving, but he modeled his aircraft after one of our club members' real aircraft.
Oh,
so
right,
we actually got the real paint that there was painted in,
Right.
and used that, and you could show. And this is the exact paint from the airplane.
Right.
And there was one of the judges trying to mark him off. He's like, "Well, it's not the wrong." He's like, "It's the same
paint.
It's just the picture didn't quite. When you print a digital
Right.
picture, everything's digital now.
Yeah, sure.
It just doesn't always come out quite the same on a printer."
Right.
And so that kind of causes some challenges. So some guys actually will go and have a picture made, like a photograph,
professional photograph.
yeah, and do it that way. So,
that makes sense.
not every, or if you've just got a really good printer that can copy all
they
that.
can cover it. Yeah, that's sometimes when you're doing CMYK, it just doesn't come out quite as much
it doesn't.
there. But the day is actually, other than the wind, the day is actually wonderful here at your club, and they do have half a dozen spectators or so. It's a lot more people than for an event like this. I didn't really in my head see it as a big spectator event, but there's plenty out here.
We,
a lot of
we
people.
don't publicize it.
Yeah.
In the past, we've tried to, and it's kind of like, for us, it's exciting because we're competing and we're trying to do our best. But sometimes when you're just doing the maneuvers like we're doing, it's not as exciting to the average person. But if you like airplanes, it's just cool to be out here and watch airplanes fly.
That is true.
And you're seeing some of the best airplanes in the state.
Sure.
We got people from Colorado that came down. We've got people from California. I forget where else. A couple other places, but we had a bunch of guys last year from Texas. They couldn't make it this year, but we have a lot of our club members that are participating. We got actually hats off to the judges, the guys that are giving their time to judge both on the static and the flight line. They're regular club members, or they're friends from other places, and we've got some club members that are doing both. They're flying as participants, and then they're competing, or they're acting as judges.
Makes it a little quick jumping out of your seat, going to get your airplane ready.
Exactly. So they're really good about giving the spacing for that. So.
Now, do they have specific judges for specifics? Because I noticed that you guys flew your EDFs with one judge, and you flew your Tucano with another, or is it you just go to the next judge in line?
So here's what happens. So they've set up the flight stations, and then once we've completed a round, what they'll do is we still at the same flight station, they'll just switch out the judges. So there'll be two different judges the next round.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's the same. So we get different judges each time.
Right. So you're not flying just one guy who's just marking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how do they do the score? They take an average.
Yeah, so so if we're lucky today, we're going to get 2 more rounds in, so we'll have 3 total. We flew 1 yesterday, and then you drop one, and then the average of the last 2. So
okay, gotcha.
We'll see.
You drop your lowest score. Or
drop your
lowest
lowest
score.
Lowest score. Yeah.
Lowest score makes sense. So hopefully you do well on the other on 3.
Exactly.
Right?
So.
And then I know if the wind kicks up, they were kind of waiting today. There's the chance that you don't get a round 4. Then how do they drop the round 4, or do you still get to drop one?
You're still going to drop one.
Okay, so then you'll be 2 scores instead of 3.
Yeah,
okay,
so
gotcha.
It is what it is. We'll survive.
Yeah, no, it is. But the wind's kind of in and out now compared to what it was this morning. It was blowing pretty good.
And I just love being out here for this. It's just fun because you get to see some guys you don't see very often, and it's kind of a challenge to get everybody together and talk about this stuff, but it's all fun. So
Right. Well, it makes sense, and unfortunately, we couldn't get Jay on at the same time we were here, but we'll flip back to the studio and pick him up because I know he probably has a couple questions about what goes on here, but
yeah, and maybe by then we'll watch know how I did with this.
Yeah, that's true. We'll know how you did, so we'll have to head back there.
So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Now, who's running the show?
Tim Dickey is our contest director and does a great job. He's very prominent with the scale community now. In the NASA,
he should be. He won stuff too.
Yeah,
right?
he's won some stuff too.
Yeah.
So actually, if you look at if you go to the Academy of Aeronautics website and you look at their documentation for scale, it's his picture on the guide. Yeah, so that's where he's at. Let's put it there.
Exactly. So.
But he does a great job. It's labor of love. I've helped him out with a couple things. I was helping with registration yesterday. Didn't have any really this morning, so I didn't have to do anything with that. But just helping him out.
It's running really smooth, though. I mean, I know there's not like a whole lot. You're not dealing with 200 pilots or anything like that, but it does run smooth, and everybody's kind of moving around, and it's kind of neat to see everybody helping. I know somebody flew an EDF before you and then turned around and called for you.
So Dick
kind of sharing.
Yeah. So there were 4 of us flying EDF, and that was only 3. So it's going to be win, place, or show for me and Dick and Bob Ruff.
Well, there you go. Well, that's excited. Perfect. Yeah, I saw Bob was flying his little Panther, I think.
Cougar.
Cougar. Yeah, Cougar Panther. Pretty close. Yeah, I wasn't close enough to it to see the differences, but now that you said it. And then let's see, is there award ceremonies? How do they do that?
So it's if once they decide if we're doing 2 or 3, no, we're not going to get 4 in. So we're just going to get one more round in. Then they'll tally up all the scores, and we'll have a little awards. They got some really cool awards. I think Kenny Kier put them together. They're actually like plaques, but then they have models.
Yeah, we had that at the last. I think that's the new trend because we had that at the last event.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of those from the events prior, so where there's a plaque and they have a model aircraft on top of it. It's kind of neat to see.
It's fun to see those.
It's kind of 3-dimensional. It's kind of cool.
Hope I get to take one home.
Yeah, I think we will. So for now, here at the field, and this is the. I'll give you it's your field.
Scale Classic.
There you go. And it's for 2026, and I just came in to kind of support Shannon, and I'm not really flying anything this one, but next time we'll try it. We're going to give him a thumbs up and wish him the best when he completes this one. But for now, we're going to head back to the studio, and good luck. We'll find out how you did when we get back to the studio.
So, pins and needles.
For right now, I'm Michael from Arizona.
Shannon G, Mesa AZ.
And we'll see you back in the studio. And we're back in the studio. As you just heard, kind of left Shannon. I had to leave. My wife had something for me to do, and I had to leave a little bit early. So we still are waiting for the results and to figure out what else happened because I had to leave before the last flight there. So I left kind of Shannon hanging there. Which I'm sorry.
I kind of like this. I know you didn't plan it, but it's kind of like we had a cliffhanger and we didn't even plan it. It's kind of like,
and true. Yeah, we did.
The winner's going to be.
I know, right?
We gotta go.
Exactly.
Tune in next season 4.
That's right.
It was like a continuation. So. Bring me up to speed.
All right. So when we left off, I was competing in 2 classes. I was competing in the Pro-Am Sportsman and in the EDF class. And the EDF class is one of the club classes. Sports, one of the more the recognized classes for the event. And the club classes count too, but it's just that they're not as graded as heavily. But so I was doing really well, and then but other people were doing just as well and catching up in points wise. And so the last we did 3 rounds. I think we done 2 before you left on Saturday. We'd done the one on Friday because Friday had been blown out pretty much. So I was frazzled at that point. So by that 4th round, I was like, okay, well, I can't do any worse, but I can try and do better, but I was just frazzled. So I probably didn't fly as good in both as I wanted to. My last round with the Tucano, I had the flap that hung up on me. That was the other thing that brought me down a notch, but I didn't know how much it brought me down until after you left. So that, but it went away. So when I flew my last round, it went away, and it just totally acted normal. So the wind had picked up a little bit, so it kind of changed a little bit after you left. It was kind of getting a little windier again, so that might have been a factor. But in the end, all being said, so I took second in Pro-Am Sportsman with my Tucano. Oli Ricio took first place, and a couple of guys behind me. I forget who all got what, but then in the EDF, so the EDF, there was three of us. There was me, Bob Ruff, and Dick Rocheford. And I've been calling for Rick or for Dick, and Dick had been calling for me. And Dick's a club member. He's a big part. He's always at AEF. He's always at the club events. He's a great guy. Just can't say enough about him. He ended up winning EDF, and he was flying the FMS F86, and he brought his A game those last two flights. So we actually went back and looked at the scores just to double check, and it was 0.25 difference, and then like 0.5 from like the the second to third. It was just 0.05. It was like ridiculously tight scoring. So it was good. I was really excited that Dick won, because he's he's a great part of the club, and then but he's just one of the guys that's kind of there, has a good time.
He's pretty easy going.
He's a real easygoing guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. But then he was in shock. He's like, I won.
I know how that feels.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Yeah, you won the raffle, and you
didn't. Yeah.
So, but no, it was great. I forget. I think Noel Hunt. He's been a big part of this. He actually won like the overall like award for like the whole event, because like there's, I think he competed in more than one. He got first in his class. There was a couple of the classes where there was only one competitor, like the team scale. But there was the one guy in the builder. They were flying that Mustang. They were down the table from us a ways. But they improved from last year. So like, so even though they didn't compete, they were competing obviously, but they weren't competing against anybody other than themselves. They actually improved from the previous year. So that's one of the cool things. Mike Steiner, one of another club members, he was competing in the other class, the other club class, which is like the ARF class, and I think he did really well. I forget what but he had that P47 right next to us that he had totally done detailed and everything.
Yeah. So that was nice.
Definitely brought up his A game with that. I think we talked about him previously too. But
so the
guys, the longtime competitors, just really brought their A game. So it was good to see that.
So when you, I guess my big question was,
it was pretty, at least for your plane wise, for anything on the plane, the actual model itself that you want to change for the next competition that you have to do.
So here's the thing, with that, in the EDF class last year I flew the Sukhoi, which crashed, and I was rebuilding a new one to have ready. I just didn't get it done. So I flew probably my oldest, not my oldest, but my one of my most reliable, my F4, that's 6.5 years old. And I if anything that did help me, at least be competitive, because I was leading for a lot of this until the end, and I got brought up. So probably I just hope I have the Sukhoi or something similar next year, back to kind of, because I think the F4 is a great flying plane, but it's a little smaller, and I think the overall flight realism drops off a little bit compared to even the F86, because I think just the F86 presented itself a little better in the air. I can slow the F4 down to make it look a little bit more scale, but then it doesn't fly as good. So there's that kind of that fine line with EDFs, that you can have a plane that flies 1,000 miles an hour, but when it's a little smaller, it doesn't look right. So it doesn't. Right. So that's that flight realism, which is a couple points, and I think I took a hit on some of those points, and just some of the maneuvers. I'm going to change my flight routine. Definitely. I think actually I'm like, Dick, I think I'm going to use your flight routine because you went with it. So I'm going to go with that next year. There are some choices I made for my flight routine and things that I probably just want to change. But as far as the Tucano, I don't know if I'll fly the Tucano again next year. I have other planes that I haven't gotten around to. I have a Nexa Cub in the Navy airship squadron paint scheme that I think just will present better, and I can do more. I love flying cubs, and I love the kind of the cub maneuvers. You can kind of do like the side slips and the chandelles and things like that just look better with a plane like that. So I think just changing the aircraft. I obviously getting second place with the Tucano, for the first time out. I think that was pretty good. I've been flying I flew the Trojan last year, and I flew the Cessna 170 the year before that, and I flew a little, not micro, but smaller Navy Cub years before when I was first getting started. It's like then that did me no good because that plane was all over the place, and it just didn't look right compared to everybody else.
Right, and that makes a lot of sense. Now I'm thinking about it, that we're like a bigger cub, flying slow and being impressive, like you said, where people, like you said, doing slips or doing whatever maneuvers, just would look better with a bigger cub or a bigger aircraft as opposed to like a UMX. It could be decked out to the nine and look, verbatim to the real plane, but it's so small, or like just a wind gust comes up and the thing's getting bounced all over the sky, or it's picking up thermals as you're going down the runway. It's bouncing, a foot or so as you're just trying to slowly cruise by. It's just not going to look right.
Well, so. and then Pro-Am with, again, the guy that won with a T-28, so it was literally just, a hair's breadth of points there too. It was very, very small. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I choked on something. It was just like one of us did something a little better than the other, on each round.
Those Romanian judges, man, they get you every time.
No, the judges are great. I respect the judges because they're all volunteers, and we actually had some judges that were doing both. They were flying and being judges. And that's a lot of work, I respect you that it'd be nice if we had enough people that wanted to judge that weren't, part of the event in that respect too, but it's hard to get, so they said, okay, let's make the exception, and that's totally fine. So, but Tim, hats off to Tim Dickey. He's done a great job running Gunsmoke the last few years. We were hoping to get some more people. I think the weather, definitely was a factor, and just traveling right now. As we all know, traveling's a little expensive, especially if you're bringing an RV or something. It would be a little pricey from Texas or anywhere else, for that matter. So, but definitely, I love doing this. I'm actually, what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm hoping. There's Scale Masters in October, and it's in California. It's over in Hemet, at my friend's home field, Carl and Eddie, who came out and supported me. That was awesome. We my buddy Carl just had some surgery, and just Eddie brought him out to get him out of the house, and they stayed at my house, and they had and then they know everybody that was out there. They had a good time, but just get Carl out of the house and have him be there and support me, it was really, really awesome. But my goal, I think, is I actually want to try and compete at Scale Masters with that cub I just talked about. So I'm going to get it down off the wall and start putting it together. What I need to put together with it, and that doesn't need a whole lot, but just enough to get it in the air and start playing with it, and start the detail and do a little more with it. So
very nice.
We'll see how it goes.
That's very cool. Well, it was a really cool event. I do appreciate you inviting me out, because it was nice to get out of the house myself and to get out there and see everybody. And I had a great time with Eddie and Carl. Carl was great. We kind of hung out and chatted, because he was, those two guys weren't flying either, so we just were kind of sitting around most of the time. But but it was great. It was fun to see everybody and the airplanes. I was going to ask you if do you think that because I know that the when I was there in the morning time, they were waiting on the wind to die down, and so my question that I was going to ask was, do you think these guys got better because the wind died down? Because the thing, when I saw the smaller airplanes had a lot harder time in the wind, to fly a better routine later just lends me to the fact that it got later and the wind died down and they were able to kind of perform a little bit better. Do you find that is the case, or did they just make the adjustments in the wind and go from there?
I think, like I said, it was just that that third round for me with the Chicano, with having the flap stick, that probably threw me off the most.
Mhm.
And then there's something else I did, and I didn't tell anybody I did it. There's nothing wrong, but so that third round, I I've flown this routine in my head to music.
Mhm.
Well, I actually tried to fly the routine with the music, so I had an earbud in one ear, and
Uh,
and it was close. I was like, okay, I've got my rhythm going. This is going. This is good going. And then I think there was some. We're flying 3 flight lines. There's three flights going, and sometimes when you're trying to do the same maneuver in the same space, it gets a little congested, and you have to like kind of bump and jump and or go out in circle. And I think I think I had to go and like go a long run in, and I think that
mhm.
threw me off. And then I'm like, okay, I couldn't easily stop it because I had to reach up and hit my earring, but I couldn't because I was flying. So I was like, okay,
Right,
so let's
right.
go. And then it ran into the next. It's the same song, just a different version. I was like, okay, well that just threw me off. All right, so that
Yeah,
didn't work.
gotcha. Live and learn.
Oh, there was that. So there was that little thing, and I'm not gonna say that's what the cause was, but it was just like, okay, I was trying something different, and I was in the groove for a while, and then I lost it, and it's like, okay, well I can't do that again.
Yeah. No, I can see that. That kind of makes sense. So,
But the win a bit, I guess I can tell you for sure. Like I said, Dick with his F-86, his routine was solid, and he just flew it better the last 2 rounds, and he really did, and I probably didn't. So that was my own darn fault.
yeah, we live
But
and learn. I mean,
that,
you'll
that
know for next
competition,
time.
yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I like I said, it's I'm glad I got a couple pieces of hardware to bring home and hang on the wall somewhere. Gotta find room for them. But I I I just like the fact that I'm out there with the guys and having a good time and mixing
It
it up.
was fun.
And if I can
Yeah.
get a, but yeah, if I can get a number one, next time, that's the goal. So keep going.
Well, keep hanging in there. We're supporting you.
So Pro-Am, there's 2 versions of there's Pro-Am Sportsman, and then there's Pro-Am Pro. So if you win Pro-Am Sportsman, you have to move up to Pro-Am Pro. So Oli has to go into Pro-Am Pro. Obviously, he won't be competing against me next year. So there we go.
All right.
I
Yeah,
got one more
get rid of
notch.
him. Get out of here. Well, you
Uh,
got that going for you. So
yeah.
it's a
So
win by attrition.
yeah, and then I don't know if it works the same way. I think once you win Pro-Am Pro, you have to at least move up to Open, which is like the next level. And there was only one competitor in Open this year. It was Mike Peck, flew his Cub.
Hmm.
And he's like, "Come on, guys, you gotta get. I need more people up here with me." I'm like, so
Yeah, no
we gotta
doubt.
do. Again, then you're getting into like the static scoring and things like that. We actually had a couple guys that came out. They brought their planes out for the static, where they would just be judged on the markings and the outline. And there's actually one plane that was judged that is part of the raffle that NASA has to help support the U.S. team going to the world scale aerobatics.
Very nice.
Tony Milogos, he built this beautiful, I forget which kit. I think it's a Top Flight, their giant scale F6 F Hellcat, and they scored it, and it scored 100. So
No
Tony,
way.
he's never flown it, but he built it, and then he just like, well, I don't know. And then they said, well, hey, that's a beautiful plane. If no one's going to fly, maybe we can, at least get something out of it, and so I don't know all the details, but they scored it, and and all the documentation that Tony provided, like he went into that level of detail where you need to provide, the official
Yeah,
paint
sure.
colors and
Sure.
samples of those paint colors, and then show it against that, and then against the real aircraft, and he got 100 on it. It's like, wow, that's
Wow.
tough. I mean, it's real tough, but that's where it's at. And a couple of the guys
Yeah, I
really,
didn't even know that they scored 100. I thought Tim Dickey, when he maybe at the world levels they don't score hundreds, but
yeah,
I do remember him telling us that that's very, very difficult.
yeah, and I don't know if maybe there's a little bit of, okay, well, because we're giving it away, let's make it sound.
Yeah.
But everyone who was there was like, no, it's 100. He did that good a job. So
Okay.
that's
I'm sorry I missed that.
really cool. Yeah.
That is kind of cool. So, well, we're about out of time. There is an event that's coming up this weekend. Why don't you run through real quick before we
Yeah.
go and let us know?
Before this week, we have an event coming up this week. It's the E-Jet Day. We started this as when we had smaller aircraft restricted from the jet rally, but we started our own. But it's kind of kept growing and growing. It's next Friday and Saturday, so 2 days. Even though it used to be 1 day, but now it's 2 days, so it's E-Jet Days at AMA. But before that, our runway is being resealed with the HA5 stuff. Actually, I went out to go help pull all the tables and chairs. They already had done before I got there. The gate was locked. It was really windy. Everyone stopped flying and said, "Oh, just pull the tables and chairs. No one wants to fly. It's too windy." So they're going to come out tomorrow, and they already come out Thursday and then the seal crack seal, and then they're coming out tomorrow and starting it, and then hopefully by end of Tuesday it'll be finished and repainted, and we can go back out on Wednesday and put all the stuff back.
All right. Well, we're excited about that.
So I'm very excited to see it. We just found out that Tucson Radio Control Club TRCC actually had it done not too long ago, and they're very happy with it too.
Oh, good.
So there are other fields that are doing the same thing.
Well, perfect. We're excited to see. Maybe we can post some pictures up there. And
are you going to sneak out this weekend for EJ?
Yeah, it's yeah. I'll have to talk to you off air about what's going on. Yeah, we're going to try and be there. If not, we'll get you to do some some on air there. Gotcha. Well, okay, perfect. Thanks a lot for
Jay. You want to come out? Come on out, Jay.
Jay
well, that sounds great and all, but AK Mike is going to be coming down here the 1st of May. So we're probably going to go out and fly a little bit and get some shoenanigans while he's out here for a couple of days.
The authorities have been warned.
Yes, they have. They're on standby.
AK Mike and Jay.
911 is the speed dial
around town, aren't there?
That's right. You can see our mugs on the picture. You've seen these men stuff. You see them.
No doubt. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your patronage here at the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona.
Jay, flying high in South Carolina, low country.
And I'm Shannon G in Mesa AZ.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
That's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.